Hello, YouTube land. This is Brent Son coming to you from Lexington, Kentucky, the Bluegrass State. Today we have Richard that has contacted me through text, and he's seen something again. He's been on a previous show and has told some stories of something that he had encountered. And anyway, we have him back today. He's had another encounter at his workplace. But before we get started, though, if anyone out there has a story they'd like to share, you can contact me at brentonson@gmail.com, and you can submit a story. And if you want to contribute to help with this channel, you can go to PayPal me link in the description, and you can contribute there. And I appreciate everyone who has helped out through these times while YouTube has been crashing, and hopefully things will pick up soon and get back to normal. But anyway, Richard, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good. How you doing?
Pretty good, man. You know, ever since I had that heart attack and stuff, man, my memory is very fuzzy, and I've had so many different interviews. It's hard for me to piece together who told what story when and all that kind of stuff. So, you shared something before, right?
Yes.
And what
Yes.
was what was the story back on your first time?
It was the encounters I had when I was younger, in the big thicket, where I'd actually had one of these things tear up my truck, and I
Was
was
it a
foolish
big
enough to shoot at it with my 22. Yeah,
Bigfoot or Dogman?
Bigfoot. I've never seen a dog, man. Don't care
Okay.
to.
Yeah, I hear that, man. Okay.
But yeah, we talked about that, and I'd actually seen what I felt like was the same, if not the same one, at least the same group, if you will, three different occasions on that particular place. Well, on that place and the place next door to it.
And the big thicket
And
is
then,
in Texas, so the
yes, sir.
viewers know. Okay.
Right,
Now
and that would have been. Go ahead.
you had something happen at work, right?
Yes, yeah, and I'm going to tell you, I've had four, I guess, sightings, which I guess is a lot, but I mean that's just what I've had. I've had four sightings where I've actually seen, a Bigfoot, Sasquatch, whatever you call it, wood booger, and but none of the sightings have ever had anything or ever had it make a noise, it's never. It's only been a sighting. It's not done anything other than when the very first time when it trashed my truck. But as far as making any noise, I never had it make any vocalizations. And about 4 days ago now, I was on I work for an oil field company, and I work at night. And basically what we do is I go out to these remote locations out in the woods mostly, and what they do is they'll just cut a pad in there, and they'll drill, and then when they're done drilling, they'll put a pump jack and in oil reservoirs in a saltwater tank, and it'll be out in the middle, of the woods or a ranch or whatever. But usually, like I said, in this part of the country, it's out in the woods on acreage tracks, and so there's nothing out there. I mean, it's just woods, and so most people that own these things don't live there at the location. I don't know where they live, but I would say 95% of these wells, when you go in there, you'll turn off of a little farm market or county road, and then turn onto Oilfield Lease Road, and then you'll drive off in there a little ways into the woods, and again, you're by yourself. Well, I really haven't been too nervous about anything. Every once in a while you get a feeling like you're being watched, but usually it's an animal. Nothing like major. But man, I guess today's Monday, so 4 days ago, they had me doing a well down on a river bottom. I've never been to this well. it's what they call will call well. So basically, whenever the salt water gets high enough, they'll call in. It's not something we do on a regular basis, so there's not a lot of activity out there. It gets hit about once, every 3 or 4 days. So anyway, they called me out there, and I went out to the well, and it's down. It's to try and so you can visualize it. You're basically on like a farm to market road, and then you turn off of that onto a little county dirt road, and you go about 3 miles down towards this bottom, and then you turn off of that onto an oil field lease road, and from that county road to the lease to where the tanks are, it's about half a mile, but it's a straight shot down into a bottom, and there's a river down there. And anyway, there's trees all around this property, and it's just really dark in there. And so the only lights you have are from your vehicle or from lights you're carrying. Well, I went in there, and what I did was I pulled up next to the tanks, and then you get out and you walk upstairs on the tank ladder. It's about 25 feet in the air, and you gauge the tanks. As I'm gauging these tanks, there's 2 sets of tanks. As I'm gauging these tanks, and I'm wearing a headlamp on my hard hat, and I caught reflection down in that bottom. So I looked down there, and I could see 2 distinct, or it just said eyes, but 2 eyes, big, like green eyes. So I'm looking at it. I'm like, I wonder what that is. And I'm looking at it, and the next thing I know, they blink. So I'm like, well, it's definitely an animal. And I'm looking at it, and I take the headlamp's got like a twist thing where you can turn magnify the power. And I magnified it down there. And when I did, this thing started, going nuts. It started just barking, not like a dog, but it just, I don't know how to describe it, but it scared the hell out of me. And, I ain't never been that scared. And, it was going crazy down there. And so I'm like, I'm getting the hell off of here. So I started to go, there's 2 ladders on each end of this thing. I say ladders, they're stairwells. And so I started to go down the stairwell. I came up, and as I started to walk down that stairwell, the damn thing was following me. Now, it wasn't coming towards me. It was staying on the bottom down there on that riverbank, but it was walking the same way I was going. So I'm like, well, forget this. So I turned around and go the other way. And it did the same thing. So I'm like, what do I do here? Because I'm in the air. You can see me. This thing can see me in the air. And I've only got 2 ways to go unless I go straight down. Well, it's like a 25 foot drop. That'd kill you. I didn't know what to do, man. So I called my boss, and I told him, I said, listen, get over here right now. Bring a gun. The biggest thing you got, I don't know what this is. And he could hear it on the phone screaming. And he's like, what is that? And I was like, man, I don't know. That's why I need you over here right now. He lives like maybe 10 minutes from location tops. So I'm like, look, just get over here. I knew he was awake because he is the one that dispatched me to this well. So he's like, all right, I'm on my way. So I'm sitting there, and but the thing wasn't coming towards me. It wasn't like coming out of the bottom. It was just walking back and forth, and it was throwing stuff. It was, you could hear stuff being thrown around down there, and he was throwing stuff up towards the tanks because you could hear it. The pad side is crushed rock, and you could hear stuff hitting the rocks, and like when it hit the rocks, it would scatter other rocks and hit the tanks. So whatever it was excuse my language, pissed off. And I don't know, man. I tell you what, it was. I don't know, but anyway, he got there. It seemed like forever, but like I said, it probably wasn't even 10 minutes because he knew I was. He heard whatever that was, and anyway, he's got this jacked up Toyota Tundra, and he's got the big, it's like, I don't know how to describe it. It's one of these LED bars, you know, when you turn it on, it basically it's like turning on the sunlight. I mean, it's crazy bright. Well, anyway, when he hits the pad side, he turns this thing on. And the only thing I can figure out is this thing realizes, you know, now there's something else, somebody else, you know, I'm sure it doesn't know what's going on, but when he did that and came on site, you know, it took off, you know, the opposite direction from where I was at on the tanks. It took off away from me. But it took off. When it took off, I mean, you could hear it running. I mean, it wasn't trying to hide nothing. It was breaking stuff as it was running. You know, like it sounded like a bull in a china closet. It was just busting through the stuff that was along the bank. And so anyway, my buddy got there, my boss got there. He's like, man, what the hell was that? I was like, dude, I don't, you know, I mean, I know what it was. I mean, but I don't really know how to approach the subject with him. And I'm just like, man, I don't know, but you heard it. And he's like, well, let's go down to that creek bottom and see, because the property, that creek bottom is on the property, and you can get to it, but the pad site is fenced off, so you just go outside the fence and go around it. But you know, I told him, I was like, man, there's no way I'm going down there. If you want to go down there, go ahead, but I wouldn't do it, and at least not right now. And I said, you know, I'm taking this truck back to the yard. I'm going to the house. I've had enough for the night. I'm not doing nights anymore. And he kind of got, you know, squirrely with me, but I just told him, like, look, I'm not working nights, so I'm done. I'm not doing this. You're out there by yourself in the middle of the night, man. And I never really had any issues out there until that happened. And like I said, I told him, you know, if you don't fire me. But I'm not working nights anymore. So, and I'm damn sure not doing any river bottoms anymore. I think that's what these things travel on. I think that they use them as a, you know, like a highway to us, as a river bottom to them. I don't know, but I just, I ain't working nights anymore, I can tell you that. And then also, when we talked last time, I was telling you that I really hadn't hunted East Texas. Since all that stuff took place, I really hunted the hill country in West Texas and South Texas. Well, a buddy of mine from work had an open on deer lease just like 10 minutes from the house here in Huntsville, and asked if I wanted on it. And it was priced too good not to get on it, so I got on it, and I went over there and put up a 16-foot 2-man stand that you hook into the tree, and I put up a feeder. And because we have wild hogs out here, I took the legs of the feeder. I took 2 pieces of rebar, 4-foot pieces of rebar, and put 2 on each leg, and then I wired the legs down so a hog couldn't knock the feeder over to get the corn out. And that was last month. And about 2 weeks ago, I went out to check everything because our rifle season started that weekend coming up. And I went out to check everything, and my stand was gone and my feeder was gone. And I was like, you know, what the heck's going on here? So I went back home and I called my buddy and I was like, hey man, you know, what's going on? My everything's gone. And he said, what do you mean everything's gone? I said, my fan, my stand and my feeder are gone. You know, what the heck's going on out here? And he said, well, look, because I wasn't working today, I was off. And he said, look, when I get off work this afternoon, I'll run out there. He said, because I need to check my stuff, make sure everything's working good. So we go over to his place, which is about maybe 700 yards down the road from mine. And his feeder was gone, but his stand was still there. And so we thought somebody had come in there and stole our stuff, basically. And so he was mad, and I'm mad, and so he started calling other members and asked them to come out and make sure, you know, their stuff's okay. And there was about 4 of us, I guess, that had stuff missing. Well, I mean, you know, it's replaceable, but it costs money. So anyway, I went and got another feeder and set it up, and I went and got another stand. I was going to pick a different location than where I had it. And as I'm walking over to a new location, I found my original feeder, and it's like a what do you call it? Like a 55-gallon drum is what I use, a metal drum, and it's got a hole drilled in the bottom where I put the thrower and all that kind of stuff that makes it work. Well, anyway, that drum had been, the bottom of it, all of it been ripped out, and I mean, I don't know, man. That kind of got me thinking there. I mean, for something, nobody stole it. That's just it. I mean, it wasn't stolen. And we ended up finding my stand also. My stand was just bent, which wouldn't be impossible for a man to do, because it's not really, like super, super strong metal, but I mean, it's strong enough that a 350-pound guy can sit on it and not damage it. But the feeder's what gets me, because if somebody would have been stealing it, they would have took it. They would just did what they did. And the reason I say it's not hogs is hogs wouldn't take a stand down. They'll take a feeder down, but they wouldn't take a stand down. And my stand was tore up. Like I said, it was all bent over. The cushions were ripped off of it. It looked like somebody had just vandalized it. And then the feeder, and the feeder, the thing gets me is a hog couldn't rip that feeder over, because it had rebarb on each, drove down to the ground almost 3 foot, 2 pieces on each leg, and then wired to the legs. So in this place, and I didn't mention it, this place is about 3,300 acres, so it's a big place, and it borders the Sam Houston National Park. So it's got an even bigger place that it borders, that is thick woods. I'm talking thick woods and bottoms and stuff like that. But excuse me. But I don't know, Brenton. I wasn't gonna, I was trying to write that off as just, vandals. But it makes no sense to have vandals in the woods. If they're gonna steal it, they're gonna steal it. So, and then now after this thing with the creek bottom, man, I don't, it's completely, I mean, I don't know, man. It's kind of turned everything upside down. I don't know. I don't want to quit hunting, man, because, I mean, I've done it all my life. And, but I'm scared to death to go out in the woods right now. And, I'm almost to the point where I'm like, you know what? I know there's things out there. I've seen them myself. They're flesh and blood animals. I ain't into all this. They're supernatural. That's BS. They're just a flesh and blood animal. But I'm to the point now where I'm like, you know what? I'm thinking about upgrading my arsenal and getting a couple guys together and going out and either trying to get one of these things and take it down and prove to everybody it exists so we can do something about it. Because these things, I don't know, man. I don't want to let it ruin my way of life. But in the same thing, I'm I don't really want to go out in the woods anymore. So I don't know what to do. I'm at the point now where I'm just like, what do I do? Now it's causing me to, have issues at the work.
When you were at work, the way that you are explaining the work site, it's almost like you're up on a platform and you can climb down to another platform, and then you can go one way and then another way, and on each end of the platform you have a ladder to get down to the ground. Is that kind of explain it correctly? Or?
No, I kind of no. That's kind of incorrect. Maybe I need to describe better. It's just the stairs. It's a set of stairs that's damn near vertical, and it's scaffolding basically, and it just goes up to a walkway, and then the walkways, depending on how many tanks, can be 10 foot, it can be 40 foot. So there'll be a walkway that goes in between or on the sides if it's singular tanks, because these tanks will be in a line, and a lot of them, if you have 2 wells, you'll have double tanks. You'll have a set of tanks, and then you'll have a set of tanks in front of those tanks, and then you'll have a walkway in between the 2 tanks. So every tank has a lid to it, and you can pop a little side lid open and gauge the tanks, whether you're gauging oil or gauging salt water. I don't mess with the oil. I only haul salt water, because when you bring oil out of the ground, you get salt water too. and we haul the salt water off and dispose it. And but anyway, most of them have double exits, and I think that's a safety thing. So in case there's ever a fire in your block, you can go down the other ladder. In fact, I keep saying ladder, but they're stairs. I think they all have double stairs. Now that I'm thinking about it, I don't think I've ever seen one that doesn't have double stairs. But I mean, some of the older ones don't, but the newer ones do. But anyway, so basically, you're like, 2.5 stories up in the air. And there was the tanks. These were a double set of tanks. So you had tanks and then tanks behind the tanks. So basically, if you're standing on this platform, you had tanks to either side of you. And I was gauging the saltwater tanks on each side, just so when I called in, hey, it's at this level, I'm going to pull, 130 barrels out of it. It's going to be at this level. And by the way, the other well is at this level. That's how we do it. And so anyway, that's, like I said, I've never had an issue out there at night because, to be honest with you, I don't see a lot of critters when I'm in that truck because it's so loud. And when you get down there and you hook up your pumps and you turn on your pump to pull this stuff out of these tanks, I mean, that pump is just insanely loud. So I think that, it scares most everything normally away. I mean, I've had cows be out there on the pad and it'll run them away from it when I turn that pump on. So I don't know. I mean, I don't know if the thing was hunting or something. And here I pull in here with this thing and turn on all these lights because I've got LED lights on the back of the truck and then I got side lights on the truck. I mean, I light up the entire area when I'm down there because you got to be able to see, And I don't know if, maybe this thing was hunting or something or fishing or I don't know what it's doing down there, but I mean, I know what it was. I know what it ain't. It's not a normal animal, and I guarantee. I mean, everything in my mind tells me it was a Sasquatch. I don't know how big it was. I don't know what color it was. Like I said, all I can tell you is I saw its eyes. That's it. That's all I could see with that headlamp because it was a good ways from me.
So this thing was it was like vocalizing at you.
Oh my God!
Like was it kind of making like the roaring type?
Yes.
Okay.
That's it.
So it was whether you would go to one end of the platform to try to get off of it on one end of the stairs, or go to the other end and try to go down the stairs. It was like shadowing you,
exactly,
following you in the creek bottom.
Yes.
So it was down in the creek, looking up at you, and
correct.
When you would go to one end, it would kind of follow you down that way, yelling at you, basically.
Yes.
And
it was raising holy hell. I mean, it was obviously upset.
Yeah, so it must have been upset over the sound, don't you think?
Man, I guess. I don't know. But the thing was, I hadn't even turned on my pump yet. I mean, the truck was running, but I hadn't turned on the pump. I hadn't hooked anything up. Because on a will calls, usually there's a load, but sometimes there's not. So I figured, well, before I hook up and fill out paperwork, because I won't fill out paperwork on anything until after I'm actually pumping. Otherwise, you've wasted your time because if you go up there and there's not really a load in there, well, you've just wasted paperwork, so I just want to, so it doesn't take long. It takes 5 minutes to hook up, but to me, it's a wasted effort if, you're trying to get as many loads as you can. So it's a wasted effort if you hook up and turn your pump on and you go up there and gauge and there's no load because now you got to break everything down. So I really hadn't turned the pump on anything. So, I mean, it wouldn't be any louder than just a little single cab Mack truck, idling. I just think that with the lights and everything I turned on, because like I said, it lights up and those tanks aren't like, touching each other. There's probably, a 6-foot gap between each tank so that they can run pipes and everything through there. So I guarantee, so there's definitely lights coming through those tanks shining down So if you were standing on that creek bottom, you could definitely see lights and everything up there. And of course, I'm silhouetted against these lights up on top. So, plus I had a headlamp on. Plus I'm wearing a red suit with reflective junk on there. So, when I have my headlamp on, I'm shining like, a beacon. My clothing is. So I'm sure this thing saw that and was like, what the heck is this? And I guess, I don't know. And, but I don't know, man. I just, between you and me, man, and I don't think, I don't know what to do, to be honest with you. I mean, I'm at the point where I'm like, these things are dangerous, and these aren't I don't think these are gentle forest giants, whatever the hell these people call them. I think people are naive to believe that. I think these things rip your head off if they got a chance. And, I think this one was gauging me to see what I was going to do, depending on, what it would do. And then when my boss got there, excuse me, he realized somebody else was there and figured, well, I'm out.
So when you had your headlight on your head, and you were
yes.
getting the eye reflection, and then you started hearing it.
Yeah.
And then you turned that up. Were you able to see the creature any at all when you turned your light?
When I saw, excuse me, when I saw the initial eye reflection, it was lower to the ground. So I thought it was just an animal. So that's, I was kind of watching it, but I was also trying to look at the tape and see my levels. And then I saw that thing blink, and I'm like, huh. And I looked back again, and that's when I turned my, I was like, well, I'm going to crank this thing up and see how far, see if I can see what this is. Well, when I cranked it up, the damn thing stood up. So I think it was like crouched down. And when I say stood up, that's only it could have done it, because it went from a level low to the ground to a level high to the ground, and it didn't move to the side or any type of jerky pattern. It just went straight up. The eyes went straight up, which tells me something stood up. And when it stood up, that's when it started, freaking out. And I mean, you could feel it. And this thing is so powerful.
And when you
scream that far.
When your boss got there and he turned on the lights on his vehicle,
yeah,
and it lit the area up more, did you get to see more of the creature then?
No, because it was a slope. That's the problem. It's a sloping. This pad's kind of like on a. I don't know how to describe it. What the word I'm looking for? It's kind of like on a. Not a rise, but it's the land kind of, it's flat, and then because it's initially you drive down into a bottom, and then it kind of levels out, and then it stays like that for 300-400 yards, and then about 100 yards before it starts to go down into the river there, into that river bottom, it'll start sloping down again, and then it has a really sharp slope. Excuse me, getting over whatever, some type of cough thing I've had for a couple of days, but it has a really sharp slope down into the bottom. So I couldn't see it, even though, I could see the lights. When I heard the rocks, I knew he was coming, because I could hear the tires on the crushed gravel road, and that's why I was like, thank God he's here. And so but I wouldn't turn around because I didn't want to stop looking at this thing. If that makes any sense.
Yeah.
And then I knew he turned on his lights because all the area that's like the tanks, and to either side of the tanks, all of a sudden you could just see the reflection, really bright reflection. So I knew he hit his light bar. And then you saw the light kicking down kind of like across and over the landscape, but it wouldn't go down into the bottom where that thing was. So I couldn't see any better than I'd seen it the whole time. All I could see was the eyes. But when it saw how all of a sudden there's a tremendous source of light, and I want to think he could probably hear the tires like I could. I mean, I could hear them, and so I think it probably knew somebody else had got there, and then when it saw another huge source of light coming through, it realized that there's now more than one person up here, and it probably didn't want to take a chance. It probably I think it was by itself. I didn't see anything else, and I didn't see any other eye reflection, and so I think it was by itself. But I, again, I don't know, because I was so fixated on this thing that I really didn't. I really wasn't looking around anywhere else. And I would think that if it started screaming, there's more than one. They'd probably others would start screaming too. But kind of like if you ever seen one of the movies where they start hollering at wartime or whatever, and then everybody starts hollering and let's get each other psyched up and go kick some butt. Well, that didn't happen. This is just this one thing freaking out and squalling and hollering, and that's the only thing I heard, and I only saw his eyes, and so I think it's by itself. But
right.
My boss, he could hear it on the phone. I mean, he's just like, what in the heck is that? And I was like, man, I don't know. Just get over here, please.
What did he say when he got there?
Well, he wanted to go look for it. I just told him. He goes, what was it? Well, I told him. I said, I don't know what it is, man. I said, I've never heard anything like that either. All I can see with its eyes is down there in the creek bottom. And he's like, Jesus, that's really loud to be down that far. I was like, well, listen, I mean, you heard it. What do you mean do? And he said, well, get in the truck and let's go. I said, man, I'm not getting in any truck. I'm getting in my truck and I'm going home. I'm done. I'm not working nights. I'm not doing creek bottom anymore. I'm done. Going to the house. I'm not working. I'm done. Because we're not allowed to carry a gun on these locations. Department of Transportation rules says I can't carry it doesn't matter. I'm a former Marine. I've had more training with firearms than most people. It doesn't matter. I have a concealed permit. It doesn't matter. I cannot carry. Federal law says I cannot carry in that truck. So I can't, I don't have any way to protect myself up. So,
right.
I'm not doing it at night. I'm not going to do it. I'm just not doing it at night. I figure at least during daytime I can see what's good. Because here's the thing, when them trucks are going, Brandon, it's so loud, if something were to sneak up on you on a pad site, you'd never hear it coming. At least with that daytime, I feel some are, sense of security. But I'm not doing it at night. Like I told him, I'm not doing it. He wanted to go down there and look for it. I told him, go ahead, man. I'm not doing it.
So what do you say about you not wanting to work at night no more down there?
He thinks he just says I'm being a big sissy. I told him that's fine. I'll find another company. I'm not doing it. But he didn't want to lose me because I know what I'm doing, so I do my job well. So, but so he's made the adjustments for me to go to days. But he likes having me on nights because he knew he'd go to sleep at night and didn't have to worry about things getting done because he knew I'd get them done.
Right.
But that was his big complaint. But I mean, I'm not doing it. It's like I told him I'll go flip burgers. Nothing against flipping burgers, but I'll go flip burgers before I work at night out here anymore.
Right. And so he's letting you keep your job and everything then.
Yeah. For now, I mean, he's made the adjustment to put me on days. I mean, I had to work a couple more nights to make it to where he could flip it, but I won't do any river bottoms. There are certain wells I just won't go to now. They're just too remote and too.
So what he say the screaming was then?
He had no idea. He said he never heard anything like that.
And he didn't have nothing to say about it, like.
Not real. I mean, he just wanted to go see what he wanted to go find out what that was. And I told him, go ahead, but I'm not going with you. By all means, you go see what it was, but I'm not going. I'm just not going.
But you've had encounters with these things before, though, right?
Yeah, that's why I know what it was.
Right,
and I'm not going after it.
And the encounters you had before, were they visual or? Yeah,
they're all visual. Well, the one I shot with 22. You know, the first one I've ever seen one.
Can you kind of roughly go over that one again?
Yeah, I was coon hunting. I was on a place my uncle owned at the time. Wasn't supposed to be there, but yeah, again, it was river bottom and a lot of coons. And me and my dog went out there, and I turned her loose before dark to go out there and turn her loose. And there's an old couch. I tried like an old trash pile, and had an old couch. I used to sit down on this couch and wait, you know, for her to start baying, and then I would go down there and you know, follow her down there and get the coon. Well, I turned her loose like always, and this place had like a pasture on the front of the place. The rest of it's all wooded back there in that bottom, and the pasture kind of had like a rise to it. So when you pull in, you can't see the other side of the pasture. You can't see down in the bottom. So I'd park in the front, walk over the top, and then there was that trash pile. And that's part also why he had that trash pile on the back side of the place, because you couldn't see it. So it wasn't like a big eyesore. But anyway, I was sitting there on the couch, and next thing I know, dog comes boogieing out of the woods, freaked out, squalling, trying to get in my pocket. I mean, I was like, man, what is going on with her? And she did not want any part of the woods that night. And I kept trying to get her to go back out, and she wouldn't go. And so I'm like, well, I don't know, you know. And so I started to walk back over top the hill there, back to my truck. By now, it's pretty much dark. And as I'm walking, I hear something walking in the woods. It would have been to my right. Kind of, and the only reason I heard it is because I stopped to put her on a chain, and I heard it stop. And I'm like, what in the world? So then I started walking again, and he did have a few cows out there. But usually they'd be in the pasture. I didn't really ever see them out in the woods too much. They pretty much stayed in pasture. But anyway, so a couple times I would stop, and this thing would stop, but it wouldn't stop exactly when of course, because you can't read your mind, so it didn't know when, you know, what you're doing. It's just paralleling whatever this was. And then as I was getting towards the top, I heard the horn of my truck go off. It wasn't like a long, you know, it was just like that. And I'm like, well, what in the world was that? So this is before, well, I guess there were alarms back then, but there wasn't an alarm on this. I mean, this old 78 GMC pickup is a piece of junk, but it was my first truck. You know, I paid for it, my own money I'd worked for. So to me, it was, you know, like driving a Ferrari. But anyway, I come over top of the rise, and I got, you know, basically having to drag the dog with me because she didn't want to do anything. And I noticed the light of my truck was on, and the truck was facing away from me. And I'm like, well, you know, what the hell is going on now? So I see the door to my truck, the passenger or driver's side door's open. I'm like, golly, you know. And I figured it was my uncle out there, and, you know, I'm getting ready to get chewed out. And I figured I got busted, and because he never come out there at night. And as I got closer to the truck, I stepped on one of them old type of cassette holders I had that had cassettes. I stepped on it or kicked it, you know, and I'm like, well, you know, what's going on? And so I had a dog box in the back, and I dropped my tailgate and put her in the dog box, flipped the tailgate back up. I went over to get, you know, to look at my truck, see what was going on. I had the .22 rifle with me, and the piece on the first thing I noticed was the piece on my steering wheel, the top piece was broken off, and and then my it was a standard transmission. The gear shifter was bent over towards the passenger door, and the rearview mirror was ripped off. And I'm like, you know, somebody's trashed my truck. And it never occurred to me. I just thought somebody vandalized my truck, you know. And so I was mad. And when I went to, you know, I got everything, you know, kind of together. I mean, it took everything I had to bend that thing that gear shift where I could at least use it, to, you know, put the truck in gear and get out. And so anyway, I spun around as I went to leave. I just did a spin around, or turn, you know, like a 360 on my truck with the lights on. And I when I was coming around this one, when I was just about with my Doma 360, I saw a dude standing there at the wood line, about maybe a foot into the woods. And I had the high beams on. And so I'm like, there the dude is, and so I got out, and when I got out, I closed my door, and I walked away from the truck because I didn't want to be silhouetted against my high beams. So I walked away from the truck, and as I was walking up towards the guy, I was like, I could see him, but he's still pretty good ways from me, but I could see him, and it didn't occur to me how big he was. He just looked like a long-haired hippie dude, it just looked like long hair. And I thought he was just a hairy guy, like an unshaven, long-haired, bearded guy. And so I'm yelling at him, and it didn't say anything. It didn't move, and it was looking at the truck. And I don't think it ever saw me because of the high beams on it. And it wasn't trying to shade its eyes or anything. And so I had my 22 little 4-power scope, and I put it up on him, and that's when I realized this wasn't a man at all. That it was a freaking monster, and I just, as fast as I could pull the trigger, and as I was shooting, you could see flame. It's not like a large caliber. I mean, 22 is a small caliber, but it's still fire coming out of the barrel. So I would, pop, 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 and just a little bit, just a little bit flashes of orange, and you could still see through the scope, but it wasn't like before I pulled the trigger. Anyway, every time I'd pull the trigger, you could see it like it was swatting mosquitoes or something. It just like moving its arms across. So I think first it didn't realize what was going on, and the next thing I realized it was getting hit, and it turned and it ran directly into the woods. At which point I followed it, which was stupid of me, and I got about right where it's standing, and there wasn't really anything. There was just like a turn mark there, but where something big, you could tell turned. But then I got like a foot or two in, and you could see blood on the ground, and I probably went maybe 5 yards in, and that's when I realized, hey, you shot this thing with a 22, and it didn't drop, and it's running, it's hurt, and it's probably mad, and you need to get out of here. And so I went home. So, and then, like I said, next day we came back out, me and my dad, and we found signs of, more blood, and things have been broke, and Dad's like, look, I don't like this, and let's just get out of here and don't come back out here. And of course, we did go back out there, but
and the 22 hurt it, right?
Well, I think that at first it didn't know what happened. I mean, yeah, the 22 penetrated.
Right.
I mean, it hit it. It penetrated. It drew blood off of it.
I mean, that becomes,
I don't know.
You get hit with 22 bullets, they ricochet around, they go in and ricochet
Well,
around.
yeah.
I mean, that becomes a problem. 22 can actually be fairly deadly in a way. I don't know how far it penetrates in some of these massive type bodies that they have, but
yeah,
they're actually very dangerous.
Oh yeah. I know somebody who got shot in the back with the 22 and ended up with the bullet down in a vein down in the leg. So I mean, that's getting shot high in the back.
Yeah,
so, I mean,
in some ways it
crazy.
can be more dangerous depending on where it goes.
Yeah,
because it goes in and ricochets off the rib, and you get it collarbone and go down, and it's crazy.
Sure.
Yeah. So.
But to tell you the truth, I was 17 years old. I was naive to the world, and I was angry over my truck, and I just wasn't of the right mind, And people can say what they want, but unless you're in those shoes, you don't know how you're going to react. And I was mad. My truck had been vandalized.
I know of another case where Bigfoot came out of the woods and charged the fella, and when it got up to him, he pulled his 22 out because that's all he had, and he shot
That's
it.
all I had.
He shot it in the face, and it screamed and it ran off. It ended up coming back after him a little bit later, but it made it think. I mean, it's like, okay, I'm wounded.
Yeah.
I got a bullet that ricocheted around in my face here. It's like hard saying where it went. I don't know, but
I know.
but
Yeah. I mean, I think obviously I think listen. I've told you in the past. I think these things have intelligence more so than any other animal that we're known animal, and I can tell you right now, animals know what guns are, and animals don't stick around when you start firing. They're just they don't. So for something like this that's quote unquote gone undiscovered, I think the government knows all about it. Trust me. But I think for something I think they know damn well what a gun is, and so I think that when I don't think it saw me because of the lights on it, and I think when I started firing, it saw the orange flash coming from the right of where it was looking, and then I don't think it registered what was going on until after it had been hit a couple times, and then that's when it turned and got the hell out of there. And I think that and like I told you, it never made noise. It never made a noise. If it did, I didn't hear it. But my adrenaline was going so much that maybe it did, and I just didn't hear it. But I know when we saw the one after we'd found that school bus that had that big nest looking thing in it, that one didn't make a noise. And then the one that was shadowing the where we were fishing, catfishing that night, that kept shadowing that pond, that pasture, that thing it never made a noise, and it kept doing circles, it never made a noise. So I think they make noise maybe when they're mad, or they want you to know they're there. I think that otherwise they're pretty stealthy. Well, the one that was, 4 nights ago, that he didn't make a noise. I say I don't know what it was, but he didn't make a noise. Not until I, hit him with them lights. And that's when, all hell broke loose. So, I don't know, man. Like I said, this is bothering me. I mean, it's gotten to where I don't even want to be outside at night. I mean, it's gotten to where I don't want to go hunting. And I've been doing that all my life, man. I don't, now I'm scared to death to go in the woods, and I don't know what to do, man. I mean, I'm to the point where I'm like, well, I mean, I won't sound crazy, but I mean, I'm to the point where, like, if it's going to take a body, then by God, let's go get a body, unless, because I'm going to tell you right now, it's a flesh and blood animal. I'm not into all these crazy, I don't want to say that. I don't want to put it like that. I'm not going to say people are crazy, because people probably think I'm crazy, and that's fine. Take what you want. But I don't believe these things I don't think these things have anything to do with UFOs. I don't think these things have anything to do with being able to morph or transform or anything. I think these are hominids. I think they've been around since we've been around, if not before us. I think these are native to this world. I think they've been here, and I think that we've in the past have fought these things, and we've pushed them into the places that we aren't at, and now with the way there's so many people on this planet, we're having to move and knock forests down and put in cement and put in housing and everything else. We've encouraged so much that where are these things going to go? So, now we're starting to have more and more sightings because there's more and more people out there. So at what point does the government say, listen, yeah, they're here, If they're scared of losing money because nobody wants to go to national parks because, these things are in it, well, too bad. I'd damn sure rather know the truth than be lied to and end up getting killed out here because I'm out here camping in a tent with no protection, in the middle of nowhere. And so I know what's out here. I've seen it. I've been yelled at by it, and listen, I've seen this thing 4 times prior. I saw it 3 times on the one place, and one time about 65 miles from where I live now, and now I saw it 4 days ago. So that's what, 4 or 5 times? It's real. It's a flesh and blood animal. So my thing is this, Brenton, what do I do? I mean, what do we do? How do we, I don't want to give up the way I live.
Yeah,
So
no. It's
what do we
crazy.
do?
I don't know. I don't. I went out this past weekend to Grant County and using the thermal, looking for these things. It was so cold, man. I really don't know if I got anything. It was so cold I couldn't even pay attention. You know what I mean? It's like I was filming. It's like, oh my gosh, But I was freezing so bad, man. My toes were so frozen. We had a little base camp set up in this little outbuilding this fella had built, and I've been editing this for a couple days, and I keep losing the footage. Every time I edit, I edit like several clips, and then the computer shuts off, and I lose it. So I save it as much as I can. So I've got like probably 10 minutes edited out of a probably hour-long program, and I've worked on it for like 2 days. I've got something wrong with the computer, but it'll be kind of an interesting little piece because the thermal it works to show. It's like if there's something out there, this will light it up. And
I'm familiar with thermals.
Yeah, it's military grade.
Yeah, that's
thermal. So
that's where I've got my experience with them. I've used thermals when I was in the Marine Corps, and night vision and stuff like that.
So everybody can look forward to seeing this here soon, and I'm really trying to work on it and get it done. But for some reason, I keep losing the footage. But I'm figuring out how to like save it, and then I shut the thing off and I turn it back on and reboot, and so I'm getting it together. It'll come together here soon. So just kind of bear with me on that.
No, yeah, I look forward to seeing it. Well, I think y'all are crazy to be out there doing it, but
no, man.
I'm be honest with you, I couldn't even go out the woods right now, so I don't know why I'm thinking I can go out there and do something, because
even with the thermal, dude, it was hard to. I would hear them huffing. I could hear them going like that, and on one side, and you would hear it on the other side, and we would be shooting around with the thermal trying to find them, and when you have really, really thick grass that's real tall, all they have to do is lay down in that, and the thermal ain't gonna pick them up,
See, that's the problem when we live here. Everything's so thick. I mean, it's briars and pine trees and scattered oaks, and I mean, you can't see 5 foot in any direction in most of the forest here. It's crazy. And the big palmetto type looking plants, big fanned out looking. I don't know the names of everything, but I mean, it's like a jungle, and you can't see 5 foot in any direction. So I don't know. Like I said,
I know it's kind of dangerous. We stayed in a truck most of the time, but it was really, really cold. It was so cold, so, and I told the dude, I said, I don't know if I want to get out, because, if it's really, really thick, then there's not a whole lot you can do to spot them, and, they can sneak up on you, and it's over,
Let me ask something. You had that one reach in and grab you.
Right.
When you went on that fishing trip.
Right.
Yeah, I've never had one do anything like that. I don't know if I'd still be alive. I probably would have had a heart attack right then and there. But do you feel, I mean, has it affected you to where you don't want to be out there? I mean, you're still going out there and researching, so I mean.
No, dude, I'm researching from the truck.
But there's no way you're going to just get out in the woods and walk out.
Well, when it grabbed me in the tent, dude, I went and built the fire up, and I left that morning. I've not been.
Sure.
I haven't camped there again.
No, I don't know if I go camping. Period.
I know, because that scared me, dude. I mean, it's like because after it reached in the tent and grabbed hold of me, it didn't hurt me, and it could have, but.
Sure.
I mean, it leaves so many questions. It's like, okay, why didn't it hurt me? And then it's like, okay, since it didn't hurt me, then it could have, and it could have grabbed my tent up and run off with me.
Yeah.
I mean, who knows? I mean, at that point, you're just asking questions, and the questions you can't answer. So,
well, my thing is, do you think that this one the other night, when I hit it with the light, with that, when I magnified that light into a strong, like, what I'm talking about with the light, you can throw a broadcast like a big
Right.
area, so for a small distance everything's lit up, or you can magnify it where over a longer period, just it's like a tunnel. Well, that's not a good way to describe it. But anyway, what I'm trying to say is that when I magnified it on this thing, that's when it stood up and went berserk. So, and like I told you when I texted you earlier today, if this thing wanted me, there's not a hell of a lot I could have done. It could have got to me before I could have gotten the truck, and even getting in the truck, unless I had that truck going to speed, I don't think there's anything I could have done, So I don't know if the thing was necessarily I had a feeling that it was working. To me, it was like it was working itself up to the point where. Have you ever watched somebody where they want to fight somebody, but they don't want to fight somebody? They're not sure, so they have to sit there and work themselves up to do it. That's what I got the feeling like. It had to work itself to.
Yeah, I know, and a lot of times when I hear people say that it was swaying back and forth, and it was throwing things, and it was swaying back and forth, and doing that kind of motion. It's almost like it's working itself up to get more and more aggressive. Like it doesn't.
Exactly.
It has to work itself up to the frenzy that it needs to make that full charge. Because it's not sure, Because
Yeah.
At first, I think a lot of times they think that it's okay. Well, I'll attack this guy, but it's not sure. They don't realize. I think sometimes how much stronger they are. They don't really need to work themselves up. You know what I mean?
Right. But in the
can,
same token, I still think they know what a gun is, and I think that might be
right.
Saying that they don't,
it's
that's
unknown.
Right, and I think that's what keeps them at bay, is because they are like, look, I know I can get this guy, but does he have one of those things that goes boom?
Right.
And that's, I think they very well know what a gun is. I mean, for something to have that type of intelligence, and I still think they have, they can speak to each other. And I guarantee you, just like, we pass down stories about, hey, we saw this here, we saw this here, they pass down stories about, like, look, these people have these things, and, it can kill us, and, if you see this, just leave them alone, don't mess with them unless it's absolutely necessary. I don't know, but that's kind of what's in my mind. But, I mean...
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, I'm not going to ask you what you think I should do. It'd be like asking somebody when you're, if you're having a, it's like I had a friend who's having problems with marriage. He's like, what should I do? And I'm like, look, man, I am not going to tell you what to do with your marriage, because if I tell you to do something and it turns out wrong, then you're going to blame me. I'm just, if you want to talk to me, I'll talk to you and I'll listen, but I'm not going to tell you what to do. So I'm not going to ask you what I should do. But what I'm saying is this. Bretton, these things are there, and they're a lot closer to civilization than people realize. Mm-hmm. The government's not going to come out and say anything to us. They're not going to admit it. I know that.
And they probably don't know. They don't know either.
Well, that's just it. I don't think they realize everything about them either. But here's my thing: it's the point where you're almost going to have to get one, take it directly to a news station in the back of a pickup, dump it on their floor, and say, "Film this now before the government shows up." You know what I mean? I mean, get it out there now before the black SUVs pull up, and I disappear, and this animal disappears, and I'm told either shut my mouth or I'll never be seen again.
And I know, and a lot of people think there's some big, huge cover up, but I think a lot of times they don't know either. It's
I think they're
winging it. I mean, there's some agencies that probably know a lot more, that have accumulated evidence over time through all.
I think they probably have a body. To be honest with you, I think they've probably got a body and they've studied it.
But there's very few people that know. You know what I'm saying?
Well, yeah, that's just it. And I think they also know the ramifications of coming clean and saying, listen, this does exist, because now you're opening up the possibility for everything else. Look, I'm not going to tell you a dog man doesn't exist. Too many people have seen them. Just like somebody says, Bigfoot's not real. Well, you know what? You can believe that. That's fine. Believe that. And you can, may you never see one, and may you, die an old person never having seen one. I know better. I've seen it. So, my thing is, if they have to come out and say, look, this thing does exist, and, they are dangerous, and this, this is where they're at, which is basically nationwide. And, I think there's such an economic, impact that it's going to put a lot of people out of work. It's going to affect a lot of people. I think they don't want that to happen. And I think that's the bigger concern. I don't think they care about us personally. If 1,000 people get ate by these things every year, big deal. That's not, that's 1,000 people. They don't care. But right. I think it's more economic reasons than anything else.
Yeah.
But that's just my opinion.
Right.
And, you know how opinions are. So, it's just, is what it is.
Yeah, I agree. I think that there's different people who know different things, and depending on what level they're at, it's a need to know kind of deal, and most people don't know. So,
well, and like my wife, she refuses. When I try to talk to her about it, she didn't want to hear it. She didn't want to see it. I told her the other day I saw something. I was looking at somebody's website, and I found something. I said, hey, come here and look at this. I want to show you this. This is really interesting. Nope. I was like, well, just look at. Nope. I was like, yeah, but it's nope. Not going to do it. I was like, why? I don't want to know that crap, because I go out in the woods and I don't want anything to mess that up. And I'm like, okay, see how you feel when these things stand in front of you. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I think most people are like that. It's like out of sight, out of mind. I'd rather be a sheeple than know the truth. And I don't know, man. I just, like I said, I'm to the point where I'm like, it's funny because it gets to you, man. To go out in the woods and do this, you're gonna have to go out in the woods and do it. But I don't want to go out in the woods. So it's like, I don't know what to do.
Yeah, no, man. The more I've come across, the less that I feel safe out there, because I know they're out there for 100%. It's not like I think they're out there. It's like I know they are, and every place you go into the woods, it's you hear stuff and it's maybe not them. But your mind is at work thinking, is that them or is it not? You know what I mean? It's kind of like
with the feeders in the deer stands, Britton. Who's going to just vandalize stuff? You know what I mean? That makes no sense.
Right.
And if a hog's going to tear up a deer feeder, okay, I've seen that happen. It hasn't happened to me. That's why I do the rebarb thing. But why the stand?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
so
it's iffy, you can't just blow off some of that kind of stuff, and So therefore you have to calculate the risk and decide whether or not you're gonna go forward with it or not.
Well, I've got my 14-year-old sitting here next to me, and he wants to go deer hunting, but I want to, but in the same token, I'm like, yeah, but that means do we hunt only afternoons now, or we get out there when it's daylight and ride dark, get the hell out of there, because I don't want at 4:30 in the morning go sit in the dark, in the woods.
I don't want to be in the woods at all at dark.
That's where I'm at. That's kind of where I'm at now. It's completely ruined it for me.
That ain't gonna happen with me.
And do I think these things can be killed? Sure, I think they can. And I think I think anything can be killed. That's not paranormal or I guess supernatural or whatever. And I don't think these things are at all.
That's if you can kill them. If you can shoot them.
Yeah, but how many are there? And you know what I'm saying?
That's unknown.
You take one out, but what about the four that you didn't see? That's where I'm thinking. Look, I know weapons. I could get a weapon that could take. You get a
I don't care what kind of weapon
round.
you got, man. If you're in the dark, they can run so fast, they can move so quickly and smoothly. If they wanted to take you out, it don't matter what kind of weapon you got.
Well, that's just it. You'd have to have an operation which only like a government could put together. You'd have to have a lot of people, a lot of technologically advanced, and I don't see where one of us could do it.
Right.
So I'm kind of in a there's really nothing I can do, I guess.
It would be a luck thing to take one down and be able to get the body out.
That's just it. Yeah.
Right.
I don't think I'm going to intentionally go out in the woods looking for it. As much as my son thinks it's like a trophy buck type deal. No.
Yeah.
That's his thing. He wants to, hey, let's go look for Bigfoot. No, right. I don't think so.
Well, man, I appreciate you coming and sharing your story, man. If you come across any more kind of stuff, just let me know, and I'll be glad to have you back.
I can tell you real quick one other deal, and my brother told me this the other day because he knows about this. I called him 2 nights ago and was telling him what happened and asking him his thoughts on it, and basically just asking him if he thought I was going crazy, and he told me, he goes, I told him my grandmother had called them wood boogers, and he said, Grandma Belle had seen them when we were kids, and I was like, I didn't know that you knew that, you could remember that. He goes, oh yeah. He said she used to see him stealing stuff out of the garden back in the 20s and 30s. They've been dead a long time, but back in the 1920s and 30s and 40s, I guess, really before that area really got a lot of people around that lake. They had a big garden out behind the house, and she said she would see them come into the garden and steal stuff. And he said that's why she would tell us not to go outside. And then supposedly my Aunt Becky, me and a friend of mine had went deer hunting when we were in high school and stayed over at her house. And I remember we had stayed out late because my buddy had shot at a buck, and he didn't drop it. And we were looking for signs to see if he'd actually hit it or not. And so we were in the woods later than we should have been. And when we got home, we got our rear ends chewed out, and I never knew why. And he said, well, I can tell you why. He said, because Aunt Becky saw one in her yard there in Karnak one time. It actually came up out of the woods into her yard and scared her to death. That's why she would wait at the front porch with the light on until y'all came in from hunting. And when y'all did come in, y'all got such a earful because she knew what was out there. So just, I guess there's a lot of sightings that go untold because people just don't want to talk about it, even though, your family and don't, what I'm saying? They just don't want people. I guess they think people will think they're crazy and they don't want to be looked at in that light. So apparently, that's why I think these things have been seen or have been around, as long as we have. So anyway.
Right. So your aunt saw them and your What'd you say, your grandmother or your...
Yeah, it was my grandmother.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah.
And she called them wood boogers?
Yeah, she called them wood boogers.
Man, that's
and she, like I said, she lived over there in a little town called... Now, she lived in a little town called Uncertain, which is on Caddo Lake. And then my aunt lived in a little town called Karnak, which is by Caddo Lake, which are all over there by Marshall, in the northeast corner of the state.
Right.
And up by the Louisiana, Texas border there. And... but yeah, so my grandma used to see them stealing stuff out of the garden, and then Aunt Becky had one come through the yard one day on her at dusk, and she freaked her out for life. So, but I guess she never told me about it, but she told my brother about it, because I guess he had questioned, why I can't go outside at night, and this is what I saw, so that's why I don't let you outside. And that's why we were talking, like I said the other night. I called him just to, hey, what's going on? Let me tell you what happened to me. Am I going crazy? And he said, well, Aunt Becky used to see him. And then he said, and Grandma used to see him. And I'm like, I knew Grandma talked about him, but I didn't know she'd actually visibly seen him. He goes, oh, yeah. I'm like,
wow.
Oh, well, okay.
The whole garden thing, that's very interesting. Because she probably knew once they were done with the garden, then they were looking for food of some other type,
Well, they kept chickens, and I remember growing up, they kept chickens. She had chickens out there. She had, Granddad had usually 1 or 2 pigs at all times out there. And, they had a huge, and I'm not kidding, the thing was huge, a huge garden. And because of the garden, they had a ton of rabbits and deer in the area that were always going back there. But I mean, literally a foot away from the last row in the garden was the woods, and It was thick woods. So I mean, and there wasn't any fencing. I mean, they really didn't fence anything or have any fences, around their place. So you come down a dirt road, and then you see their house about 30 yards off the road, but there's no fencing around anything out there. And then another 35, 40 yards behind the house, they had a big barn. And then behind the barn, they had the garden, and you could see the garden. The barn was kind of, an eyesore in front of the garden, but you could see the garden extend past the barn on each side, so you could see into the garden. But apparently, she'd been out there and seen them. So I mean, I don't know the exact details of the story. I don't know any interactions other than the fact that she saw them. And like I said, she's been gone for a long time. So I mean, there's no way I could ever. There's only a couple people I could talk to that might know, and I haven't talked to them at all in the last 2 days. I just talked to my brother, and then was trying to figure out, what I'm going to do. So,
all right. Wow,
anyway.
That's very interesting, for sure.
But listen, I look forward to seeing your stuff on the thermal stuff. That'll be really neat. And
yeah,
I mean, I would definitely stay in this vehicle. I don't think. I don't know what I'm going to do. Honestly, I don't know. I might just be done deer hunting altogether.
Well, who knows? We'll see.
Yeah.
We can't let them win. I know that. So we'll see what we can do though, because we got to be smart about it too. But
sure.
But I appreciate it, man. You have some very interesting stories to tell for sure. And anyway, stay on the line there. If anyone out there has anything they'd like to share, you can go to brentonson@gmail.com and share a story. And if you want to contribute, you can go to a link in the description, PayPal me. And basically, I hope you enjoyed this. And be looking for when I finish the editing on this thermal imaging from Grant County. And I hope you all enjoy that too. And until the next time, God bless, and we'll see you on the next video. Bye-bye.